It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. When everybody's listening, I hope you're doing all right today. Wherever you're listening, yeah. Wherever you're listening, I hope you're doing all right today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's to get an authentic Italian meal. And today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Find out why I go all the way to the bookstore to get myself... Oh, God. Talk about being automatic, right? Just get yourself a copy of it. Find out why I'm so animated about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. And if you're looking to get a signed copy, don't worry about it. Visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. You can't miss it. And don't forget, if you're looking to get multiple copies, maybe you want to give them away as gifts or whatever, just drop me an email, and I'll hook you up with some special pricing. Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. Today, before we get started, I just want to mention a couple of things. First and foremost, Microsoft sucks. I just want to let everybody know about that. Microsoft really sucks with what they do with forcing you for updates and stuff like that. I do IT work. And on one hand, I'm glad they caused so many problems because it puts money in my pocket. But when it affects me directly, I just can't stand it. So anyway, I figured I wanted to get that off my I want to get off me chest. Anyway, coming up later on the show, Dax Khan will stop by, give us his thoughts on the fights this weekend. Coming up Wednesday, the return of Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard. He'll join us. And we're going to be doing a special blast from the past this Wednesday, not on a fighter. This was a request to do it on a venue. And Alex and I will be talking about the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So you don't want to miss that on Wednesday. And as usual, we'll have a full slate of topics to discuss as goes the week. One thing I want to plant. I want to plant the seed. I want to plant the seed in your head. We're going to be doing another Billy C event at some point over the summer. And it's going to be the biggest one yet. It's going to be basically a 4-day event. Yeah, you heard it right. A 4-day event. We're going to have golf tournaments, a fishing tournament. We're going to have meet and greets. We'll have some celebrities there, a lot of celebrities there. We'll be showing some fights, or we'll be broadcasting a fight. So depending upon the schedule, it's going to be a week-long adventure. We're going to have memorabilia there. It's going to be good. Now, we're shooting to have it at our home base in St. Simon's Island at the Sea Palms Resort. But we're going to keep you posted. The reason why I'm mentioning it now is because I'm trying to get an idea of how many people would be interested in coming and signing up for the week. We will be offering packages through this show, hotel deals, dinner deals, etc., etc. So if you have any interest in that, it should be, I would say, mid to end summer is the time frame we're looking at. We want plenty of time to get this thing set in stone, and we want you to have plenty of time to coordinate your time around this. And don't forget, this isn't just for the big boys and girls. This is good for family, too, especially the places that we're looking to have it. So if you have any interest, just drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Some big fights this weekend I want to talk about. Well, let me rephrase that. A big fight this weekend that I really want to talk about. And then a couple of stinkers, in my opinion, on HBO. And I'm just curious to know if you guys feel the same way I do about HBO and how deep they've fallen off the radar in terms of putting on only the best fights. And they're not slowing down. Because when we got that, Sergey Kovalev fight, he's fighting against some slug. And then the fight that really should be the main event, where you have Bivol against Sullivan Barrera. I mean, that's a much more intriguing fight. And I'll tell you the truth, which would have been even more intriguing is to see either one of those two fighters fight Sergey Kovalev. But nonetheless, first and foremost, I want to talk about the fights this weekend. And I also got a little nauseous with all the accolades about Roy Jones Jr. I mean, I don't know if you guys picked it up during the broadcast or not, but geez, they have this guy on such a pedestal. I really started thinking, was Roy Jones really that great? I mean, yes, he dominated. He did some things historically that hadn't been done in a century, but was he that good? Did he duck anybody? Did he fight fighters that were everybody that was available to him? Did he wait too long? Did he have too many things in? You can't go by the Roy Jones that we see today. I'm talking about going back, and I will get into that a little bit later. But first and foremost, the cruiserweight unification fight, which was the semifinal for the World Boxing Super Series in the cruiserweight division, put Alexander Usyk up against Matthysse-Briedis, and at the end, the bottom line is this was an extremely exciting fight. 115-113 twice, and one judge had it 114-114, giving Usyk the win. He improves to 14-0 with 11 knockouts. Briedis loses for the first time in his career. He dropping to 23-1. Now Usyk will face the winner of next weekend's fight between Gassiev and Junior Dorticos. I'm looking forward to this cruiserweight fight. Joining me right now from St. Simon's Island, Georgia, is my man, Sal Rocky Senecola. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you today, buddy?
Oh, not too bad. I know you hadn't had a chance, or maybe you did have a chance to watch some of the highlights of the Usyk-Briedis fight, but I will say this. It was a very, both of these guys known for their knockouts, and I did predict Usyk to win this fight, but I thought he would win by late round stoppage. It didn't happen. It was, as you like to call, an ebb and flow fight, which featured two heavy-handed fighters going the distance, really landing some hard shots. What I liked about this fight, Sal, was they both tried to break each other down, trying to work the body, going to the head at times. And, I think it was just a reflection of how good both of these fighters were that neither one ended up getting counted out. What's your thoughts on an evenly matched fight when they're supposed to be?
Well, that's just that's a great thing to have. And when you see an evenly matched fight and the so-called ebb and flow of a fight going back and forth to each fighter's advantage or at least dominance, I think it's a match that definitely is one that we do not always see, and when we see it, it jumps out to be one of the special bouts. And as from what I hear, is that exactly what happened this past weekend with Usyk and Briedis. And I'm gonna have to watch that on the internet and see. But I did call for Usyk to also beat him, and I thought he was going to have a late round stoppage. But hey, guess what? A decision, a win is a win. And if you look good doing it, and it's a good fight, why not? I think it's a great series, and we'll look forward to the fight next week, and also the unification or the final bout, the tournament, and that'll be great matchup. Whoever wins this week. But yeah, I think a bout like this is great. It's what boxing is about.
You know, the other thing I noticed is, it wasn't anywhere in the U.S. It was actually at a place called the Riga Arena in Riga, Latvia. And, once again, when we watch these fights at locations outside the U.S., I can't help but notice how much the fans are into it, cheering and chanting and getting into the fight. And, I don't understand why the fight fans here in the States don't do the same. Very rarely do you see them as vocal as we see the fans in these jam-packed arenas outside the U.S., Europe, and other places as well. I just don't understand why the United States has become a place of watching big fights on TV rather than going to see them live. I know in other sports, football and basketball and even baseball to a degree, have pushed the small guy out by making ticket prices so outrageously expensive that corporations and stuff now are the predominant season ticket holders. Not that there aren't individuals holding them anymore, but it just seems like here in the States they gear towards that corporate America for the fannies in the seats, and the rest of the slugs like you and I watch on TV, which isn't necessarily a bad way, watching from the comfort of your own home. But with the sport of boxing, there's so much energy that's expelled in the arenas. I gotta believe, Sal, that the fighters pick up on that and respond to that. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, when you have a fight and you feel the fans are behind you, I mean, it's the momentum, it's the caught up in the emotion. It's great. I mean, you feel like, wow, I am representing a contingency of people that I'm fighting for myself. But man, I'm going to not disappoint everybody that's coming out to support me. So, definitely it does add a little bit there, and you have some expectation of something like that, and you hear it and you see it. And whether I was fighting in some other guy's backyard or away, in my backyard, it's funny, but the fans and the support that you do hear, it does help. It does help a bit. And you're still focused, and sometimes you just shut that all out. But you do hear the cheers and rays, and your relatives are there. You know that your fans are there. You know that your girlfriend, wife, or somebody's there that's significant usually. So yeah, guess what? You don't want to have a bad night, so you'll do your best. That's it.
Yeah, well, my point is that when the masses are there chanting your name and stuff like that, it's got to jack you up. It's got to get the adrenaline.
It does.
And we've failed. We've failed that here in the States. It just doesn't happen at least to the degree that it happens elsewhere, and it's a shame. It's a shame. But speaking of fights, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, look at the course of what's happened over the decades. I mean, we have the feel-good police, and even with the football fans and the tailgate parties and everything else. I mean, they've cracked down. You can't, and I'm saying they feel-good police because they got to look out for the best interest of everybody there. And as you suggested, things are going more corporate, and they try to shut the average Joe out. or not try, but sometimes people go along the path of least resistance. So when you gotta get up for an event and you're trying to organize a party or your group, and then you gotta get patted down, and you can't bring any beer and sneaking that, do this, tailgate party that, this, it just makes more obstacles for people to have to endure every time they want to do something, and they think about it. So they start thinking about these obstacles. They say, you know what, I'm better off just watching on my TV. I'll call a couple of my buddies over.
You're right. And, I mean, unfortunately, the world has become a place where we're required to go through a metal detector when we want to go to a high school football game or something ridiculous like that. The world has become that kind of a place. And you're right. A lot of people, look at me. Look, when I come down and do an event at St. Simon's, I prefer to hop in the car and drive 24 hours than I would to hop on a plane because of the aggravation that it gives me to fly on a plane. You got to get there early. You got to park. You got to get patted down. You got to strip down. You got to get all discombobulated. Then you're at the hands of them. Oh, sorry, flight's delayed. We're rerouting you. Equipment problem with this. Pilot's drunk again. Got to switch pilots. I mean, come on. But... Anyway, the other fight, HBO. What has happened to HBO, Sal? HBO used to be the premier place. When you used to watch when you used to see a fight that was going to be on HBO, you knew damn well it was going to be a competitive fight. You knew it was one of the upper echelon fights. You knew it was a fight that both fighters earned to get. Man, are those days gone? We gave them, at least I gave them a bit of a pass last year. I thought maybe they were in, some kind of transition. But first of all, Lucas Matthysse is the main event against the guy, Matthysse-Kiram, who... No one ever heard of this guy. Let's be real. I do this show. Nobody does more research about boxing and stuff than myself and the people that are involved with this show. And out of nowhere, this guy comes to fight on HBO against Lucas Matthysse. And nothing for nothing. When did Lucas Matthysse become this big draw? Lucas Matthysse has lost all of the biggest fights that he's ever been in. He hasn't won any real big fights. Yeah, he's a battler. Yeah, he's a knockout guy. But this is a guy that's best days are long behind him. Why are we wasting our time with him? And he gets to be the main event. If anything, the co-main event between Jorge Linares and Matthysse-Kiram much more was deserving of the main event status. It was for a title. It was between two top fighters. It was a one-sided fight, but still, it was a better fight than Matthysse. But nonetheless, Lucas Matthysse was fighting a stinkfest of a fight, boring of a fight, until 1 minute and 21 seconds of the 8th round found him finally connect with Kiram to win the fight, to improve to 39 wins and 4 losses with 36 coming by knockout. Up to that point, I thought Kiram was doing exactly what he should have done. He had the height reach advantage, the height and reach advantage, and he was sticking that jab in Mathisse's face. All I kept saying to myself was, Matthysse has no answer for this, and he certainly didn't. I think Kiram tired out a little bit, and gave Lucas Matthysse an opportunity to put the foot on the gas pedal and connect with one of his bombs, and it ended the fight just like everybody thought it would. What was your thoughts on this fight?
I like the Gesto-Linares fight a lot better, but we'll get to that. But the Matthysse fight, and Kiram, it was just what you suggested. And who was this guy Kiram? He might have been another Dooku Kim that just popped up. Who knows? But the bottom line is, the guy looked worthy in there. He had a hell of a jab, and I thought he was going to win the fight on a jab. I'd like to see what was also in that little cream bomb that they took. The boxing commissioner saw that he inhaled.
He didn't inhale it. He was putting it on his face. They were using it as Vaseline. It was some kind of herbal thing. Which why wouldn't either the language barrier prevented them or whatever, but why wouldn't that be presented to the commission before the fight? To have that guy and then them all sniffing it and stuff. I mean, that looked They look so ridiculous. It looked ridiculous in there.
It did look ridiculous. It looked amateurish, and it's a shame too because like you suggested, we're on HBO. These are things that should have been disclosed and discovered prior to the fight, not during the fight. But anyway, it wasn't going to help him one way or the other because Matthysse did come through with his big shot, and he legitimately did hurt Kiram and ended the fight, as you said, in the 8th round. And up to then, hey, it was a interesting fight. And Matthysse, I think he had a lot of rust. He was trying to look to work off and establish his distance there and get his punches underneath him. And at times he looked good and looked like he was coming along. And ultimately he did. I mean, he won the fight, and he did it in the kind of fashion we expected him to do it in.
Yeah, well, if Kiram would have been had a little more experience. I mean, this is a guy, yes, he had 37 fights going into it. Yes, he was undefeated. He started boxing late. He was in the Muay Thai and martial arts prior to that. He seems to have a perfect body for that if he can get to the welterweight division. If he could stay in the welterweight division, I should say. But no way should he have been in this particular fight on this particular showcase as a showcase. Long way to go. I mean, basically all he had was the jab followed by the right hand, a 1-2, if you will. That's it. At the end of the fight, Lucas Matthysse said, I'm happy. He was moving a lot. He was a big guy. He doesn't punch hard, but he was awkward. I needed to throw more punches until I got him. He was very strong in the clinch. Now I want Danny Garcia or Manny Pacquiao. I'll let my promoter and Golden Boy work it out. I want the big fights. This fight's for my daughter, my wife, my family, for Argentina. This belt's for you. The bottom line is they give him a main event showcase
and a belt
to basically get him a big payday. I find this appalling that we had to watch Lucas Matthysse fight an unknown fighter on HBO. This was an ESPN level fight. This was a Fox Sports fight. This was a fight that shouldn't have been on HBO. I mean, give me a break. This is the problem with fights. This is the problem with people that don't know any better, and they see Kiram, they look at his undefeated record. This is the suits that approved this fight for HBO. And the biggest surprise to me was listening to the commentators on HBO trying to talk this fight up. And it was extremely hard for them to do. And it just goes to show you that you can't believe these commentators anymore. They've become 100% corporate. They do what they're told. They're saying what they're whispering in their headset, and that's that. And if I heard one more accolade for Roy Jones, I swear to God, I would have thrown up in a 5-gallon pail bucket. I really, it was terrible. Hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about the other fight that, in my opinion, should have been the main event. Jorge Linares going up against Matthysse-Kiram. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Look,
Looks like you're not sleeping well.
How did you know? And Megan!
Hey, you're that guy.
The My Pillow guy.
That's right, and I'm here to help you get the best sleep of your lives. Just like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and none of them worked. That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck aligned. My Pillow will hold its shape all night long regardless of your sleep position for the best sleep of your life.
Call or go online to order My Pillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 My Pillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
You're sleeping better.
Much better.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
If you or a loved one have had hernia repair surgery with mesh reinforcement and suffered infection, chronic pain, mesh migration, mesh failure, organ damage, or needed additional surgery, call the Rely On Group right now. You may be eligible to receive a cash award and compensation for your medical expenses. Your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group to be connected with a personal injury attorney for a free consultation. Call 800-715-4869. That's 800-715-4869.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And don't forget, we are almost ready to unveil the new Billy C. brass knuckle mugs that we're going to have available. Upon popular demand, I was getting all these emails. Hey, we want to buy those mugs. We want to buy those mugs. And I'm not talking about the one sitting here. And I'm not talking about the one that Sal created on his own, mocking my mustache. But the truth of the matter is we have some... if you go up on BillyCBoxing.com, you'll see a logo, a JPEG, if you will, that Jeremy came up with, where it's kind of like a mug getting punched, and the handle part where you hold the mug is brass knuckles. And I have a company that is custom making them for us, and they will be available to you. And all you got to do is drop me an email if you want to get it put on the list, because they're being custom made. We only run so many per run, I guess. So we already have a bunch of names waiting to get their mug. I will have them here first. But if you want to get put on the list, just drop me an email. Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Now, the second fight on HBO, I thought should have been the first, should have been the main event. I don't understand why it wasn't. But even that fight wasn't an HBO level fight, Sal. I really don't. What was your thoughts on that one?
You're talking about the Linares-Gesto. I liked that fight. I liked it, and I know that Linares was dominant, but I liked his story. I liked the up close and personal they gave, and he. I'll tell you, Max Kellerman did hint. I'm not that big of a Max Kellerman fan for a lot of reasons, but he did suggest early on in this fight that it was a good display of what you and I do appreciate, Bill. Two world-class fighters being defensive without having to run and hold. They were in the pocket. They're exchanging punches, yet they were being defensive, and it was a good fight. It was a very good fight. I liked it, and I liked the Linares style and his story, and I was glad to see him come up victorious.
Well, we've heard his story. It's the same story you hear all the time. I don't know why HBO wastes the airtime to play them, over and over and over. Came up from nothing, did this. I mean, just insert anybody's name and it fits in there in terms of fighters. But Jorge Linares, one of the best fights that I recall him in was the one they referred to against Antonio DeMarco, where Linares was dominating, just beating the snot out of him. Was just looked like Sugar Ray Leonard, for God's sakes. And then in the corner between, I think it was the 11th round, 10th or 11th round, they go to DeMarco. Hey, you're losing. You need to knock him out. And he goes, okay. And he goes out and boom, knocks him out. I was like, whoa, why didn't they say that? Why didn't they say that in the 6th round? But Linares, Linares has some talent. There's no question about it. I also feel Matthysse-Kiram is a better fighter than what we watched on Saturday night. Now, I don't know what the deal was, why he wasn't, they were saying, he's got no power, he's got this, he's got that. I don't know if I agree with that. All you got to do is look at him, and you can see those tree trunk legs. Once again, what did Freddie Roach tell this kid in the corner? I mean, didn't give him any instruction. The guy gives no instruction. Listen, Freddie Roach has become an overrated trainer. He's a hired gun. I don't know. I'm not going to suggest anything except Linares was the better fighter. He improved to 44 wins and 3 losses with 27 coming by knockout. Matthysse-Kiram drops to 31 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws with 17 wins coming by knockout. How did the judges see it? Well, 2 had it 118-110. 1 had it 117-111. It's funny how the scoring goes because, this has been a cry that I've been saying for a long time. One power shot equals how many pitter-pat punches. I'm sorry, but if you're landing a jab or a pitter-pat punch for 2 minutes and 40 seconds of a round, and your opponent lands one shot, I'm not talking about a staggering shot. I'm not talking about a shot that put you down. I'm talking about a clean, flush shot. How does a judge give the round to that one punch? I'm sorry. I don't see it. But nonetheless, at the end of the fight, Jorge Linares said, I won. That's all that's important. I made defensive moves. I didn't feel his punches. I hurt my hand in the 4th. I couldn't land the punches the way I wanted, but I took it easy. I was relaxed in there. Freddie Roach is supposed to be the best trainer in the world, and I beat his fighter. Freddie and Gesto were going to beat me with a left hook that he never landed. I told Oscar, I want to fight the best. We're ready for the big fights and the good things, meaning money. Let's do the big fights. Let's make it happen. Things. They, meaning Mikey Garcia and Lomachenko, keep mentioning my name, and that's who I want to fight. I dedicated this fight to Japan, to Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and especially my country of Venezuela. We're going through tough times, but I'm putting all my best to make you proud. Tonight, I finished my job. I feel good, and I'm ready for the next big fight. Maybe Lomachenko first, and then move up to fight Mikey Garcia at 140. You could say what you want about Jorge Linares, Sal, but he doesn't stand a chance against Lomachenko or Mikey Garcia. What's your thoughts?
I think that'd be very challenging for him. But like I said, you got to see what happens the night of the fight. Any given night, you never know what's going to be carried in with each fighter going into that final belt. So anything's possible. But it might be a little ambitious for him to look to aspire and get to that level. And Lomachenko, I will arguably say, is one of the best pound for pound fighters out there today. And I think that would be a challenging fight. Although, Lomachenko will be moving up to him lightweight, and so we don't know how it would transpire what the weight class is. But we'll see. I think Linares is a good fighter. I think he's a solid fighter, and I think I'd like to see him fight a very upper echelon kind of opponent and see what he does with him.
Well, I don't think that he should. Linares, did he pay the dues? Do we want to see Mikey Garcia fight him? Do we want to see Lomachenko fight him? Yeah, that's just by making the fight, and this is no disrespect to Jorge Linares, but by making Garcia or Lomachenko fight him next, it prevents us from seeing other matchups that we'd like to see Lomachenko against. I don't know. I
think it's a good test for Lomachenko up in the lightweight division. I think it's a very good matchup. I think it's a very good test for Lomachenko to step up from the junior lightweight division into lightweight division. I say, why not? Let him go in against Linares. Linares is a good fighter. He could be an exciting fighter. He's got some defensive skills. I did like, and I'll tell you what, they commented on this. I loved seeing Linares when he threw some punches. They weren't pitter-pat. He had some good combinations where he landed with authority and some speed, too. So guess what, Bill? I'm going to have to go to the other side than you on this. I would love to see Linares fight Lomachenko.
You'd rather see that fight over some of the other ones they're mentioning for
What's
Lomachenko?
the other ones? Mikey Garcia, this one, that one?
Those.
Yeah,
those
I could see that would be a good fight, too. But I could see also Lomachenko. That would be a very good fight. But Lomachenko stepping up into lightweight, I think a good test for him would be against a formidable opponent. And I think Linares has proven to be that kind of opponent. And he would probably be the B-side going into the fight. And I think, it would be interesting to see how he could do what he did the other day with a superior boxer, Fester, this, that, and everything else. I think it'd be a good test for both of them. I think it'd be a good playing field for one to establish their dominance and give Linares the opportunity to rise to the occasion and shock the world, or see that Lomachenko is going to do what everybody would expect him to do at a heavier weight. That's it.
Well, Lomachenko, in my opinion, is more. I think a Lomachenko against Jorge Linares fight is more acceptable than a Lomachenko versus Mikey Garcia fight. And the reason why is because I think Mikey Garcia is too big for Lomachenko. Linares, although he's a weight class above Lomachenko right now, and remember, Lomachenko has already moved up, I would love to see a technician in Vasily Lomachenko work Linares. Linares has some hand speed. He's got accuracy. He's got great footwork, but he cuts real easy. We saw that. And Lomachenko would slice and dice him, man. I can't see that fight going to the end, but it would be interesting to see if Linares can hurt Lomachenko. Mercito Gesta has a solid chin. You're not really hurting him. If you can get him off his feet, you're a power puncher. And I never looked at Linares as a power puncher, more of an accumulation puncher, or hand speed where he stops you because you didn't see the punch.
I agree, but I did, let's take into consideration a little bit what he said about him hurting his hand in about the fourth round. All right, give him the benefit of the doubt there. Maybe he did pull back some of his power with the punch. But I did see him also landing a fast combination with authority with those punches. So that was exciting to see that at that level. And I like I said, I became a Linares fan. I like Linares. He was in condition. He came to fight. He came to win. And he did what he had to. You don't have to look pretty every fight, but he did what he had to do, and I thought he did good.
We're going to take a short break. When I come back, I got a couple other fights I want to mention. I also have some clarification with the WBC. Only the WBC has to issue statements to clarify what they say. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Hologram USA presents a proposal to all investors. Hologram USA is an innovative three-dimensional patented technology that shifted the paradigm in media technology. Our patented hologram technology that brought you Tupac and Coachella, Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, and many more is integrating live performances to bring your favorite past and present entertainers beyond your imagination. Invest in the patented technology before the banks scoop up all the stock. Invest in Hologram USA today. Hologram USA Flagship Theater, located on Hollywood Boulevard's Walk of Fame, is the first of many to come. Call now to be part of the explosive growth. Pick up the phone. Dial the number on your screen now. Invest in Hologram USA today. Call the number on your screen right now to learn about this investment opportunity.
Call 800-624-1673. 800-624-1673.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And don't forget, you want to get on a list for those mugs. Drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Two other fights I want to mention real quick. Sharif Bogheri, an exciting young fighter, in the lightweight division. This is the kid that comes out with a real Lions headdress on and all of this stuff. He's kind of a wild fighter. A lot of people get cut fighting him. He had some managerial problems, et cetera, but he fought this weekend, a comeback fight. He won a unanimous 10-round decision in Vegas against Arturo Santos. No world beater, but still, Sharif Bogheri improved to 31-1 with 20 knockouts, 99-91, and two of the judges had it 100-90. And talk about a comeback fight and fighting a nobody. Zab Judah, yeah, you heard me correctly, former two-time division champion. Zab Judah, 40 years old. He improved to 44 wins, 9 losses, with 30 of his wins coming by knockout. When he scored a 10-round unanimous decision over Noel Mejia Rincon, who drops to 21-14 with a draw. All three judges scored it the same, 99-91. Judah will be fighting again. This fight took place in Calgary, Canada. He will be fighting again in Calgary, Canada. And I'm thinking he's going to fight another Rincon type of an opponent. Then you're going to see him in a fairly big fight, because that's what promoters are doing. You know, they like to take a recycled name like Zab Judah and stick him in there and put him in with a title holder that he won't have a chance with, but gives him a payday. It's sickening. But well, Sal, in case you were wondering, the light heavyweight division, the WBC, in case y'all forgot, the WBC light heavyweight champion is Adonis Stevenson. You say, who is he still fighting? Yeah, because that's what I was wondering. But he is. The WBC. Now, in case you couldn't follow the bouncing ball, Elder Alvarez has been a fighter that has been technically the mandatory title defense for Adonis Stevenson for years now, and he keeps getting step-aside money or whatever. So the WBC had to clarify what they're doing right now. They are sanctioning an interim WBC light heavyweight fight between Oleksandr Godzik and Miha Amir on March 17th in New York City. You heard right. It's going to be an interim title fight between those two guys, not Alvarez. And then the current fight between Adonis Stevenson and Badou Jack, that's taking place in May. Now, that's actually a good fight. I don't see Badou Jack not winning that fight. So Adonis Stevenson's going to be out of the mix, but we'll see what happens. That's taking place in May. Then the two winners of those fights are going to fight each other, with the winner, the WBC champion, which would be the winner of the Stevenson-Jack fight, gets 65% of the purse, and the interim champion, which is the winner of the Godzik and Amir fight in March, gets 35%. In case you're wondering whatever happened to Alvarez, well, he's already stepped aside a few times. He's going to remain the mandatory for the winner of the next two fights. So in other words, he's not going to fight in the interim fight. He's not going to fight in the championship fight. But after those two fights are done, so after May 19th, the winner will fight the winner of the interim fight. So you figure that if all goes well, maybe sometime in the fall. So Alvarez won't get his world title shot, even though he's the mandatory, until probably early 2019. That is so absurd, Sal. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm trying to follow the bouncing ball, Bill. I feel like I've been dribbling and going up and down a basketball court. This one, that one. Whoa, hey. But I'll tell you what, the poor guy, he's gonna be waiting until he's gonna get he's gonna grow a beard and be an old man before he gets a shot. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame you got to go through. Like I said, the path of least resistance. There's going to be a whole end around and everything else, but before he gets what he's looking for.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's sad. It's sad.
You know, Customato, the late great trainer, who trained some great fighters, but most people remember him with Mike Tyson. I came across a quote. I heard some film of him I was watching over the weekend, and his demeanor and how he was, and it reminded me of visiting my friend Kevin Rooney and the gym. They still play Customato's tapes that he created with the punches 3, 7, 4, 1. And it's Customato's voice. And
that's great.
One thing he said to a young Mike Tyson, and I want to read this quote to all you kids out there that believe the BS that you've been shoved down your throat by the smoke screen, the king of the smoke screens, Floyd, what's his name? Customato said, and I quote, "Remember, the secret is you can hit him, but he can't hit you. That is what the science of boxing is all about." Boys and girls, it's what I say all the time. You want to be in a position to hit your opponent and him not be able to hit you, not hit your opponent and run to the other side of the ring. That's not the sweet science. Anybody that calls that the sweet science, as Floyd Mayweather Sr. would say, don't know boxing. You don't know boxing. So that's the truth, Sal. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, I definitely am proud to say that I concur with Customato. I'll tell you why. That's exactly what you and I profess every day, and that's it. To be in a position to exchange a punch and to be offensive while you're still being defensive, and it's hitting and not being hit, and being in striking position. So, no, that's about as boiled down to basic as you can establish and you can say.
And speaking of Mike Tyson, I know
Sure.
your idol, your idol, Sal, Deontay Wilder. I know you're a huge fan of Deontay Wilder.
Man,
I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see his life-size portrait in your little makeshift studio there. But Deontay Wilder, in a recent interview, says that he's the best. He says that, and I quote, that he's currently the scariest heavyweight alive. And he also claims that no man in the history of boxing could have beaten him. This is Deontay Wilder talking. And when they mentioned, what about some guy named Mike Tyson? And many people regard Mike Tyson as being in the 1986 version of Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, in my opinion, the 1983 to 1986 Mike Tyson was unbeatable. I'm not so sure that any great heavyweight could have beaten that version of Mike Tyson. That's my opinion. All right. I mean, he was just destroying fighters and dominating.
Explosive.
Deontay Wilder says, Mike Tyson, I would have kicked his ass in 1986. He says he would have kicked his ass in 1986. Let me just say this. Lennox Lewis was a fighter that I never really liked when he was active. But since his retirement, I have learned to really respect and appreciate what Lennox Lewis did as a heavyweight. And the first thing that I always give Lennox Lewis credit for is the fact that he's changed the complexion of the heavyweight division. Lennox Lewis made what we see today, a 6'6", 6'5", 6'7" heavyweight that weighs 240, 250 pounds, that's chiseled, that's athletic, that can jab, that can knock you out, that can move around the ring, not just a lumbering big oof. These are guys that could be playing football or basketball, athletic-wise. And Lennox Lewis walked away from being the world heavyweight champion as a champion. He walked away from the sport as a champion, never to come back. He was successful with his money, never pissed it away, kept his nose clean, was a good commentator. I personally liked his insight on HBO, but because he was too honest and didn't play the game, he was let go. He made a couple of statements. He goes, listen, and this is concerning the Mike Tyson claim by Deontay Wilder. He says, listen, I got to keep it real. I know people always go back to the old days or look at the new days and try to compare. He says, listen, I like Deontay Wilder, but trust me, he's never been in there with someone that was as ferocious, who truly wanted to break his ribs with every punch as Mike Tyson. He says, I don't see it. He says, I love Deontay's confidence. You need that kind of confidence to sit on top of the heavyweight division. It shows that he's hungry, and he always shows up in good shape, and that's what you need to do in this division. He says, but my best advice to not only Deontay Wilder, but to the entire crop of young heavyweight champions is to focus on being the best of your era out of respect and reality. It's unprovable. Of course, people ask, but I found no need to speculate or compare myself to my own idol, Muhammad Ali, or any of the other past greats. History will decide your place among the all-time greats. So go out there, clean up the division, defend your title or titles, reign supreme, and your work will speak for itself. Sal,
wow.
I can't agree with Lennox Lewis more. I have said similar things over the course of time. I have said many times that you don't have to and this is a guy that I used to hate because he pounded on his chest and said, I don't get the respect, I need the respect. Now he looks at it in a different light, and he says basically what I've said many times. Your performance will give you the accolades. You don't need to tell anybody. What's your thoughts on this comment from former world champion and Boxing Hall of Famer Lennox Lewis?
Spot on. It was perfect. I mean, I couldn't have imagined any better words chosen to relate what he truly feels. And I think that that was 100% brilliant and perfect and complimentary without being cutting. And it was so true. And I think it was a wise words spoken from a wise man that learned and earned his own place in boxing history.
No doubt. I respect and appreciate Lennox's comments. Good. We got some emails. This first one's from Joel. He says, hey, Billy C., were you able to read about Zab Judah's fight from this past Saturday? Yes. He says, as I said, I ordered the fight on Fight TV, which your show is on. He won a convincing decision and looked great. His punching head movement looked like he was 20 years old instead of 40, but it was against an overmatched opponent. He said in a post-fight ring interview that he's going to fight back in Calgary in April. Again, hopefully it's going to be against a better level of opposition. I'm sure he's going to land another significant fight at 140 or 147 simply based off his name value. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's against an Al Heyman-managed 40 or 47 champion or fighter who will not want to fight the elite and instead go the route of a veteran who's on a bit of a win streak and maybe past his time. I agree. He says, I still have to catch up on the Briedis-Usyk fight, but I read it was very close and could have technically gone either way. How did you and Sal score it? I'm excited for Dorticos and Gassiev next and find that it will be as close and as competitive as this Saturday's WBSS semifinal. We are in a store for an amazing final at 200 pounds in the World Boxing Super Series for sure. I didn't score the fight, but I was on the edge of my seat because I saw it going back and forth throughout the 12 rounds. So I loved it, and I think you're right on, Joel, that Zab Judah will be fighting one of those champions so that they get a name on their resume, and Zab Judah will have been active, and that will pave the way for him. Next email, this one's from our buddy Matt up in Buffalo. Sally says, hey guys, I'm a bit flabbergasted over this weekend's boxing. In one sense, the Usyk-Briedis fight was a beauty. It was really too close for me to call either way, but it represented a throwback for the fans of the best versus the best. Both fighters put it on the line and fought like warriors in the pocket. Briedis deserves a rematch, and I respect him far more than I did before. I thought he would go down in a late KO. I also have to hand it to Usyk for going into Briedis' hometown and icing the late rounds to seal a victory. The hard shot Usyk took in the ninth would also have taken down most fighters. Unfortunately, in the most bizarre blunder I have seen from boxing promotion, the World Boxing Super Series decided to stream their undercard for the U.S. on YouTube and abruptly cut the feed for the main event. If this continues through the remainder of the tournament, many of us will not be able to see some of the year's top matchups live. The one thing I will say is that the whole fight was available on YouTube the following morning. I think it's a sin that someone here in the U.S. didn't pick up this series, and it just goes to show you how stupid the suits are that make these decisions. He says, fortunately, HBO Boxing head Peter Nelson can provide us with low-weight showcases of the highest magnitude from our friends at Golden Boy. What fan wouldn't drop all activities for a Matthysse showcase snooze fest or a Linares unanimous decision against an outmatched opponent? In Nelson and the HBO announcing team's opinion, this card was a double header of Hagler Hearns and Duran Leonard 1. HBO Boxing, once a pioneer and leader in the sport, has become mostly pedestrian or an afterthought. Their participation in WBSS should have been immediate. The cards were ready, made for the boxing fans, both casual and hardcore. Instead, a boxing fan is subjected to the mediocre cards of Golden Boy Promotions on HBO. and ESPN2. I can't say as I disagree with my man, Sal.
No, I think it was, again, just right on. And that's because we have such a smart fan base that they do pay attention and they know what's going out there.
He says, I got 2 questions that I hope you and Sal can weigh in on an opinion for me. First, how far has HBO fallen? Outside of Superfly and light heavyweights, is HBO worth the subscription? Are Bob Arum and I correct in our assessments of HBO and Nelson? My answer, yes, you are correct. I think HBO has lost it. And until they revamp it, meaning get rid of all 3 of those stooges and Peter Nelson, this is what you're going to see. They lost it. They lost it. They let Showtime and that child molester, child-looking molester, Steven Espinosa, take over the high fights. And even those aren't even great anymore. Nah, I think they lost it for sure. He says, second, is Golden Boy the worst major U.S. promoter? Despite our misgivings of Top Rank and PBC, both at least produce content we can appreciate. Golden Boy has a deal with ESPN and HBO, despite having a stable of randoms, has-beens, propped-up prospects, and Canelo. Their cards are consistently near unwatchable, even for a hardcore fan like myself. Worse, De La Hoya has turned Canelo into a fight-ducking diva. He says, P.S. Golden Gloves in Riverside, Buffalo was a big hit Sunday, a phenomenal event with nonstop action. Both you and Sal have an open invite for the finals on May 6th here in Buffalo. Chicken wings and tickets are on me. By the way, Sal, great job on the answer to my movie trivia question last week. You were correct. Magnum Force starring Clint Eastwood. Thanks for the email, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
I am very disappointed in Golden Boy. I'm extremely disappointed in Canelo. I really believe that he was right when he said, us Mexicans don't F around. I don't know what to expect until we get some knowledgeable people making the decisions of which fights go on which networks. This is what we're stuck with, Sal. I really believe that.
Well, I think you're right to believe that, and we will see how it pans out. And we got to see what these networks are going to be willing to do to provide the best fights for the best audience and to capture with their credibility. We'll see what happens.
One last email. This is from my man Luke. He says, hey, Billy C., thanks for reading my email the other day. I get a kick out of hearing you read it. Hey, listen, for anybody out there, just remember, if you take the time to drop me an email, I'll take the time to read it. Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com. And you don't have to agree with what myself or Sal or anyone else involved with Billy C. Boxing has to do. We'll still read it. He says, you mentioned a few times that we as fans need to start making our voices heard to try and get the fights made that we want to see and move the sport along. One thing that I think is really affecting the sport, but I'm kind of surprised I'm not hearing many people talk about it, is the price that we have to pay as fans to actually watch this sport. I don't know how it works in the U.S., so you'll have to forgive me on this, but over here in the U.K., we have 3 channels, sometimes 4, showing boxing. The big 3 at the moment are Sky Sports, Box Nation, BT Sports, and ITV Box Office. Sometimes on Channel 5, which is a network channel, may have some fights, but they're not haven't shown any in a while. Now, in order to get Sky Sports, you're looking at about £40 a month. Then Box Nation is another £12 a month. That's just the standard monthly cost, but what really gets me is the amount and cost of pay-per-views. Sky, around 2009, had the boxing budget on Sky Sports cut by almost half, which forced them to throw their lot in with one promoter, who's Eddie Hearn. On the back of this, though, it kind of meant that Eddie Hearn now, as you've probably seen, started to take over the world. In around 2011, after a couple of dismal performances by Hay, they stopped putting on boxing on pay-per-view service, which is Skybox office. However, the Carl Froch George Groves fights brought it straight back. Now, in order to get a fight on Skybox, you're looking at a further 16 pounds per fight. It was 20 pounds for the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Box Nation should have been showing top-quality UK and American fights. They have started to dabble with their own pay-per-views. Canelo Triple G was an extra $10, or 10 pounds. ITV box office is 17 pounds per fight. And they're showing the World Boxing Super Series. They have Groves and Chris Eubanker on soon. I don't know if it's clearly just an issue I have, but as soon as there's any fight with mediocre interest, it goes straight on the box office. At one point last year, they had 3 box office fights back-to-back, which you can imagine in a month is quite expensive. I don't really hear as many fans talking about this as much of they've accepted it as inevitability, which I think's a bit foolish from all of us. We already pay a high price in order to get the sports channels, and then we have to pay extra for the fights we want to see. An example of this is AJ. He's our Olympic heavyweight gold medalist, and now every one of his fights is going to be a pay-per-view. We also got the problem now that those rival networks and promoters are starting to promote shows that compete against each other, like Carl Frampton against Donaire fight is on the same day as Amir Khan's return. My question is what are your thoughts on this? I know you guys in the States have had pay-per-views since the early Tyson days, and I remember reading somewhere that you guys had to pay $100 for the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, which is ludicrous. I just feel like fans, we're going to paying through the nose to watch our sport, to have to pay an extra on top, as well as the UK. Thanks for the email, Luke Thunder Breslin. Real quick, because we got to take a break. We're getting Sal, but I've been saying, we're getting Dax. I've been saying this, Sal, for a long time. Boxing fans are the most fleeced sports fans in America. Not only do you have to, pay additional fees to get the channels that even air the sport of boxing, just as Luke mentions, it's the same here in the States. For the big fights, we have to pay extra. I think it's ridiculous, and it has turned a lot of fight fans away, or at least it's turned the casual fight fan away. The diehard fan will pay anyway, and I think that the powers that be are counting on the diehard boxing fan to shell out money no matter what. And to be honest with you, to pay for an HBO subscription or a Showtime subscription to get a Linares against Matthysse-Kiram fight, or even worse, a Matthysse against a Kiram fight, that's ridiculous. We shouldn't get those fights on those networks. I agree with my man Luke, and the best way to control it is just not to buy it. The only problem we have here, Sal, is that boxing's in at least here in the States, and I would say worldwide, it's in a huge resurgence. We love what we're seeing. I like the many different fights, the infusion of being able to watch many fights. I wish we got to see more top quality fights, but I just like the fact that we're able to see a larger quantity of fights. I would always like to see a larger quantity of quality fights, but a quantity on TV is more important. What do you think?
I think you are right. Quantity right now, people could sit and choose and see which fight interests them, or give us an idea, an opportunity to look at more talent that might be coming up or established, or that we can identify with. And so the more fights, of course, I think that I don't think they can really oversaturate it, but I think that we definitely need to have the access to see some top quality fights. And if it's spread out across the board, hey, why not? We can pick and choose and see which ones we follow the best. The networks will get the feedback, and they'll know. They'll gear it in.
Yeah, well,
they'll put it in the slot.
The bottom line is, if the fighters were willing to fight,
yes,
everything else would fall in place.
Yes, it would, Bill. That's very smart, but it's very common sense, and it's very unlikely to happen in this day and age of the professional fighting. It could, but like I said, you look at the fighters way back when, my generation or my era of boxing.
Even before, let's be real. Let's call a spade a spade.
We won't just hang up on the 70s and 80s.
Well, let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, the 70s and
before,
late 70s and 80s.
The 90s
if you asked me in the late 70s or 80s if I was witnessing the last great era of boxing, and I tell people all the time, I would have laughed my ass off at you. The truth of the matter is that the great eras were even before that. But just compared to today, the late 70s and 80s were a dynamite dynamite era compared to today. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're scheduled to have Dax come. We'll get his thoughts on the fights from this weekend. Don't go nowhere. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Looks like you're not sleeping well.
How did you know? And Megan!
Hey, you're that guy.
The My Pillow guy.
That's right, and I'm here to help you get the best sleep of your lives. Just like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and none of them worked. That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck aligned. My Pillow will hold its shape all night long, regardless of your sleep position, for the best sleep of your life.
Call or go online to order My Pillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 My Pillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
You're sleeping better.
Much better.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Hologram USA presents a proposal to all investors. Hologram USA is an innovative three-dimensional patented technology that shifted the paradigm in media technology. Our patented hologram technology that brought you Tupac and Coachella, Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, and many more is integrating live performances to bring your favorite past and present entertainers beyond your imagination. Invest in the patented technology before the banks scoop up all the stock. Invest in Hologram USA today. Hologram USA Flagship Theater, located on Hollywood Boulevard's Walk of Fame, is the first of many to come. Call now to be part of the explosive growth. Pick up the phone. Dial the number on your screen now. Invest in Hologram USA today. Call the number on your screen right now to learn about this investment opportunity.
Call 800-624-1673. 800-624-1673.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And speaking about being with us, joining us right now, we'll get his thoughts on the fights from this weekend, beginning with the World Boxing Super Series. Dax Khan joins us. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning, everybody. How's this nice Monday?
Oh, not too bad. What'd you think of the World Boxing Super Series?
Oh, do I love this series. Since the start of this, when it was announced, there was Ringstar and Shaolin Promotions put out a lot of hype, and fans were wondering, can it live up to this hype? We have 16 entrants with less than 10 losses between them, over 240 wins, 200 knockouts. How's this fourth judge going to work? Can it really be a tournament that's worth watching without any U.S. fighters of note? and it's delivered as advertised and then some. I mean, what makes this even more special, Sal, is this is going off so far without a single hitch, not one stumble. The only downfall you might want to say is about the no U.S. TV broadcast, but without any U.S. TV-based fighters of note feeling that this was worth their time, with the exception of Rob Brandt, who, despite losing to Jürgen Brammer, took full advantage of the situation and made a good showing of himself. I can understand why they didn't bother with this. This cruiserweight division has really shown in this tournament, especially if you went to the fights in Jersey, that this may be the best of the big men in the sport. These guys are big fighters. Remember Steve Cunningham, a Philly-based fighter, had to travel across seas to make his name. When the cruiserweight division first started getting steam. The promoters here are who to really blame. Even when Evander Holyfield was the undisputed cruiserweight champion, the fans here didn't really give it any interest. But this fight Saturday, anybody who watched it and knows boxing, after this, if you don't want to see more of this cruiserweight division, I have to question your knowledge of the sport.
Hey, Dax, I got two things I want to comment on based on your comments just now. Number one, I think that the powers that be, meaning the suits that had the decision to either bring the World Boxing Super Series to U.S. television or not, shouldn't have used the fact that there were no U.S. fighters on, in that tournament. And the reason being is that it would have been a smart move for them to lay the groundwork to bring potentially bigger fights down the road. And this is, to me, and I want to get your thoughts and yours as well, Sal, to me that this is just an indication of the lack of knowledge that these guys who are making the decisions have. What do you think?
Absolutely. But why bring these guys over here that nobody knows? Because we might have to actually invest in something, or our announcers might actually have to educate the fans instead of just being rah-rah men and pushing the guys that are either recycled or pushing the guys that we're trying to build more momentum behind, and we're trying to erase the criticism that's already around these fighters we've invested money in. They don't want to do that no more. That's not how it used to be. Usyk, because of his appearances here in the U.S. already, has a name, has a following. Usyk, here's the guy. We talk about whatever happened to the real world champions. In 15 fights, he's already fought world title fights, whether it's fought or defended his world title in 5 countries. Name another world champion. I don't care if it's from the UK. I don't care if it's from the US. I don't care where it is. Name another world champion that's done that currently, like Alexander Usyk, against top caliber opposition.
No doubt. He's definitely put the cruiserweight division on the map. Hopefully a lot of U.S. Fighters watch it. My other quick question before we move on to the HBO fights, Dax, is this. That fight Saturday between Briedis and Usyk was an entertaining fight. I loved it, and it was a close fight. Tough one to score. What is in place for the tiebreaker? I know they have an extra round, I believe, that they fight, but didn't you find it kind of strange that it took so long to come up with the verdict? And then if it was a tie, if it turned out to be a tie or a draw, that several minutes went by before we would have had to seen those guys go at it again. Am I correct in saying that they were going to fight another round, or am I mixing that up with something else?
No, that's why we have the 4th judge.
Okay, he would have been the tiebreaker?
Right, the 4th judge is because they don't want any draws.
Okay.
They don't want any extra rounds. They want this to go without a hitch, and that's what that 4th judge is for. That 4th judge is going to be the guy who makes or breaks that, and so it moves on. And also, with there being a 4th judge, it more or less kind of takes away any sort of biasness. I was very impressed with the fact that they were fighting in Briedis' home country, and we didn't see any hometown scoring. Briedis worked the body. Usyk worked great at a distance. I liked everything about this fight. It was at a high pace. Again, we speak about the mindset of the fans, and referring to something you and Sal mentioned before about how boxing fans in the United States don't seem to get into things like they do the other sports, such as the NFL or Major League Baseball, like the other countries get behind boxing. I seen fans here saying they weren't impressed with Usyk because they had seen better performances from him. Instead, if they were educated about the sport in its whole, what they would have been saying is, wow, Briedis really was able to bring Alexander Usyk to a level we've never seen anybody else bring him to. Also, in this country, it seems that without any liquor, without any drinks or anything like that, fans aren't able to go in there and just have a good time. Everybody's got to be either like boozed up, they got to be able to act like a fool instead of just enjoying the event in front of them. The fans here today, you speak about the HBO, how they were trying to sell that fight, which we're going to get into in a minute. The Matthysse fight. These fans today are, these are the guys that are going to tell you how Al Heyman has saved boxing, and they know nothing but what goes on HBO, Showtime, PBC events, and what goes on ESPN, and that's that small little pool here, and that's why the World Boxing Super Series wasn't on TV here, in my opinion, because you know what, the United States fans would not have really went into this.
What was your thoughts on the HBO fights, Dax?
The doubleheader, I totally agree. And in my opinion, I always consider the top fight or the most meaningful fight the main event, regardless of how they sell it. And Linares versus Matthysse-Kiram was definitely the main event. Linares looked great. He boxed smart. What I liked in this fight, compared to a lot of Jorge Linares fights, is instead of starting out strong and then fading, he took those first couple of rounds to figure out Matthysse-Kiram. He also knew he had Freddie Roach over in the corner, or Freddie Roach, who has worked with Linares in the past extensively. Linares is a fantastic boxer. Watching him work is something else. He can do it all. I remember the fight that you mentioned earlier against Antonio DeMarco with Manny Stewart ringside, saying this is a pound-for-pound based fighter with the skill set, and then all of a sudden he gets knocked out. And he's right. Linares at times is that pound-for-pound fighter. He can do it all, but he does gas out. He didn't do that this weekend. Linares, he doesn't have one-punch power. That's the big knock on him, of course, that and the cuts. But, as far as Gesta, he's a guy who doesn't get full credit. He is better than an average fighter. He's not a great fighter, but he's a world-class fighter. I'd like to see him lose a little bit of his muscle tone. He kind of reminds me of Yuriorkis Gamboa when he was at them lower weights, where he seemed a little bit stiff and unable to be fluent, despite the fact he was able to get off some fast punches, but not a lot of those fast punches. So it was a very good fight. I think, so far, as long as Mikey Garcia, if he decides to stay in the 135-pound division after his fight against Sergey Lipinets, win or lose, and the WBC puts that to purse bid, that's the fights that really needs to happen at 135 pounds and help clean that up.
What'd you think of the so-called main event with Matthysse?
Kiram was actually the favorite into that fight, and it's understandable. Much of that may have been, that's the one thing I did agree with Max Kellerman on, much of that may have been due to the fact of Sorung Visai, who came over. Again, we speak about the lack of knowledge of U.S. boxing fans. People didn't even realize that Sorung Visai actually held that title. He won off of Roman Gonzalez, and Carlos Cudras took that title from him overseas. And, so he kind of had that aura and the mystery about him. Then he comes in 160 pounds on fight night, which, kind of raised that raise those betting odds over in his favor. And he has beaten a lot bigger fighters. He's beaten guys that light heavyweights have beaten, guys that Shawnee Monahan beaten, such as Fernando Castanda. Kiram has also dominated smaller guys in from the 140-pound division. And Lucas Matthysse is just a blown-up 140-pound fighter. He'd fought once in 2 years since his KO loss to Victor Postal, and that was against a capable but not very dangerous Emmanuel Taylor. I don't know that I really do question this bottle in between rounds 4 and 5. What was in there? We need to have some sort of clarification, and it's not that at any point in time Kiram was doing anything special. Lucas Matthysse was having a hard time even getting in to hit him. When he was hitting him, Kiram was taking those punches well, but those last two shots, they weren't very hard punches. He really seemed to slow down a lot after this incident with the bottle, and those grazing punches, not only did they drop him, but they literally they stopped him. He had no he didn't even try to get up. Lucas Matthysse, the idea of him wanting to fight any of these other top names is preposterous. Maybe he should fight the winner, or I'll say now the loser of the Danny Garcia and Brandon Rios fight. But other than that, Lucas Matthysse, this is a guy here who's definitely at the end of his career. And I'm sure somewhere Lamont Peterson was watching this fight, kicking himself, saying, you know what, this would have been easy work. Even though Lucas Matthysse beat him at 140 pounds, that night, that version, Lamont Peterson would have defended his WBA title, in my opinion.
It wasn't a bottle. It was that ointment that they had.
It was in a jar, a little short jar.
Yeah, it was in like a what you would get. Sometimes I see people with lip balm, like lip balm and a little tea. And they were.
They said he was inhaling it though.
Yeah, that's what I saw, Bill. I saw him do both. I think they might have applied it to his skin, but which now, if it's herbal or something, is like liniment, and that get in your eyes. Who knows? But if it wasn't applied, I don't know if I actually saw it being applied. I saw him sniff the little.
And Sal, the weird thing is, am I wrong? But didn't Kiram himself have the bottle?
Yeah, I think he did.
How's he going to hold the bottle with his gloves? Listen, I watched him putting it on him, but the only person I saw sniffing it was the commission guy, and then he made the referee. So you guys, I must have missed it. You saw him.
I saw them place it under his nose.
like a smelling salt type procedure.
Yeah, like a smelling salt or an herb. And then if that would contradict, why would you put it on your fighter's skin if it's got some kind of effect or herb? Get in your eyes or liniment.
The aroma, the aroma. Maybe he's having a hard time breathing.
Yeah, right. Maybe it was clearing up his nose. But you know what? After they took it, after they confiscated it, I kept watching the corner when they put the camera on, and I noticed that the cut man had no Vaseline. They weren't putting Vaseline on him. They were just wiping the sweat off his face. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything since that.
Who the heck knows? I don't know.
I'm not making any accusations, it's just very suspicious. What really makes it suspicious is the fact that Lucas Matthysse wasn't doing very well prior to then, and then those punches that, knocked Kiram out. Again, you know what? We didn't take those punches, so we really don't know, and we don't know what the effect was prior to those. But again, my point is, they didn't look like they were very hard punches, and an already slow Kiram seemed to get even slower. So it was very suspect and very suspicious to me. I'd just be curious to find out what was in there.
Well, he lost.
But I'll tell you what, though, too. I looked at those punches again and again and again, and there was a collision that was occurring. There was two momentums coming, even though it didn't look like it looked like a stiff hook jab, more or less. There was a collision, and they were both coming forward, so that had a dramatic impact. And when Max Kellerman was suggesting that he was maybe just looking for a place to fall down or lay down, no. Guess what? He got hit. He got hit hard, and that punch, no matter how it was delivered, with the momentum, or like I said, a hook jab coming in, a momentum shift, bam, when they had a collision, that shot, I'm telling you, rattled him bad. And the second one, same thing. It might not have looked as devastating, might not have looked as if a single punch, but no, they were hard shots. He definitely took a shot.
I don't think he looked to take a dive. It was definitely no Kermit Cintron. It was definitely no Andre Durrell.
No.
But it just seemed very very odd. So much other news, to cover real quick. We speak about HBO, we criticize it. The good news is that Superfly 2 so far, that's going to be going off without a hitch. Both for the main event, Rungvisai and Estrada have made their, their 30-day weigh-in. Matter of fact, both guys are on point. They only have 6 pounds apiece to lose. Tevin Farmer, the kid that fought a few weeks ago. A lot of people say he got robbed in that fight. For that IBF title. And what happens? Tevin Farmer. He, that's the second time that he lost a fight. People think he should win, and then what we find out is that Kenshi Ogawa goes back and he tests positive for artificial testosterone levels.
Jeez.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise you. I mean, with what's going on with all these guys, so is he getting a rematch?
As of right now, we don't know. And as of right now, with the IBF being the IBF, remember, these are guys that stripped Tyson Fury because he wouldn't give a almost decade-long champion a rematch. So you never know what's going on with them. Both Sullivan Barrera and Dimitri Bivol have passed VADA tests, so that fight is going on. And you mentioned before already the Badou Jack against Adonis Stevenson fight. I'm excited about that. What about you guys?
Oh, I can't. To me, that's a real fight, and like I said earlier, that's when Stevenson loses his belt. I think finally we'll get rid of Stevenson once and for all.
Dude, Jack has just gotten so much better. Remember, he's gotten so much better since that KO loss. Every fight, he just improves.
And why isn't he
as bad as people think?
I agree with you. And what really pisses me off about that is why he's not being promoted. That's when I always criticize Mayweather Promotions for not giving the young fighters that could be built up a chance, because my thought is that they might steal a little of the thunder away from Floyd. Badou Jack is a guy that we should all be talking about. He's regressing in his popularity as he gets better. How ridiculous is that?
It is ridiculous. That night, remember, I was sitting ringside that night. I was actually on the apron. Anybody who doubts that can watch those fights, and you'll see me on the apron. And what I did not understand is that night Floyd Mayweather is waving this $10,000 in cash to J. Leon Love, telling him if he knocks out his opponent for the night, the kid from up in Rhode Island, that he would give him the $10,000. And Jay Leon was struggling. My shirt was literally covered with blood. I got one of those white Talking Boxing with Billy C shirts, and it was covered with blood. Jay Leon was having such a hard time, but that was the guy they were promoting. Badou Jack gets knocked out in that second round, and he looks right at me, not directly, meaning to, but we just happened to meet eyes, and he's shrugging his shoulders like, wow, I really blew that one. The other guy that they had there, who had that lightweight title for a moment, and then he lost it. He didn't make weight, but he was supposed to be the main event that night. And Badou Jack now, champion in 2 divisions, he's still not given the respect he's supposed to get. But in my opinion, what that is because Badou Jack is not marketable to a lot of these U.S. fans, as we always criticize, because Badou Jack is not one of these guys who goes out there. He doesn't do a lot of talking. He's not foul-mouthed. He doesn't build himself up. He doesn't talk bad about his opponents. Badou Jack, he's very quiet. He's very respectful. He goes out there and he does his job. And I don't think, those the fans, these fans with their mentality today can appreciate that and get behind the guy just for their ability. Deontay Wilder, a guy who, to be fair, is horribly promoted. He's been horribly marketed. He's out there trying to market himself, and his comments about a prime Mike Tyson have literally backfired into his face.
Yeah, well, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Dax, before we let you go, one thing that bothered me during the HBO broadcast, and I lost count, was how many times they gave the accolades to Roy Jones Jr. And I don't want to take anything away from Roy. I mean, he's been boxing for 28 years. He's coming up on his last fight. You could make an argument that, his biggest – I mean, he's had so many accomplishments, but when he won the title from Bernard Hopkins in 1993, that was 24 years ago. There's a whole generation of fighters that have never seen Roy Jones in his prime. My question is, was he that good? I mean, I'm not suggesting he was or wasn't. I loved watching him. He dominated his opponents, but when you look through his resume, you see all the big names. But, I can't put my finger on it and my memory's going, if I felt that he was ducking fighters during that time, if he was taking the easiest way out. I know he was hard to deal with at that time. But is he as great as the accolades that get tossed around during an HBO broadcast? What's your thoughts?
Well, Roy Jones was a phenomenal athlete. His reflexes were almost superhuman. With that being said, Roy Jones was a world-class boxer, but he was not an amazing boxer. It was those reflexes, those natural reflexes that allowed Roy Jones to do things we've never seen in other guys. The reason why Roy Jones ended his career not looking as sensational as a lot of guys that he defeated is because those guys evolved into complete fighters, and Roy always remained having to needing those natural reflexes. And Roy Jones, once those reflexes faded, he more or less became easy pickings for these guys that were 5, 6, and 7 levels below him, like a Danny Green, for example. And he's having a hard time, admitting to himself the time has passed. There was something about a chin or something that was mentioned in there, and Roy Jones had said to himself, "Oh, that would never happen with Roy Jones." And I'm thinking to myself, Roy, some of the guys you've been knocked out by as of recent years. So, Roy Jones absolutely is a great fighter, Hall of Fame fighter, but you have to at some point in time say, you know what, there's a limit. But when you're sitting next to a guy that whether or not you're working with him or you're his friend, it's kind of hard to sit there and say, Roy, enough already. And yes, Roy Jones. Leading up to the Bernard Hopkins and Joe Calzaghe fight, or it might even been either the fight before that or it was the night of that fight. Roy Jones was one of the broadcasters, and he was asked plainly by Jim Lampley, why did you never fight Joe Calzaghe over in the UK? Remember, much like Deontay Wilder now with Anthony Joshua, Joe Calzaghe was the draw then. Roy Jones would have had to have gone over there, but Roy Jones flatly admitted, and he said, well, I can say this now, but I couldn't say it in my career, that it was too much of a risk for me, meaning that to go over there, win or lose, it was something that, you know what, if I lost, it would have really put me back in my marketability. If I won, it would have done me no favors. So Roy Jones, a great fighter, one of the greatest, but, you know, as far as all around ring smarts and stuff like that, Roy Jones, without those natural abilities, he would have been a very good fighter, but not a great fighter.
You know, the funny thing is that, you know, he beats Bernard Hopkins the first time he fought him in 1993. He didn't fight Joe Calzaghe for 15 more years. And he was already, you know, not his best. And you can make the argument that Calzaghe wasn't either. So,
and he wanted that fight. Calzaghe didn't care about that fight.
Yeah, no.
He wanted that fight.
No, I know. But my point is they could have fought earlier, you know. But nonetheless, I mean, 28 years. A 28-year career when it's all said and done. Great accomplishment for Roy
Absolutely.
Jones.
But even Bernard Hopkins, my point with that, or another guy who had superb reflexes, Muhammad Ali, who depended on those early. Once those reflexes faded, he started doing the rope-a-dope, and he took all that abuse. Luckily, he had that granite chin, unlike Roy Jones. But Bernard Hopkins, the reason why he surpassed Roy Jones in accomplishments is because Bernard Hopkins became, you know, a sneaky fighter, an inside fighter, a skilled fighter, a guy who learned how to use all those tricks, you know. So those were the differences, and that's what always hurt Roy Jones is he just relied on that natural speed and those reflexes. He's not the only one, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of guys who have.
No doubt. Dax, great job as usual. Look forward to you later in the week, my man.
All right, everybody, enjoy your day.
Take care, Dax.
You know, Sal, you know, just FYI, I mean, the Muhammad Ali, the rope-a-dope thing, he, as far as I can recall, he only did that with Foreman, and that was one plan, but it took its toll. But just to put the Roy Jones Jr. Career in perspective, like I said, he started in 1989. He's been fighting for 28 years. You know, his biggest win, his first big win was when he beat Bernard Hopkins for the world middleweight title in 1993. That's 24 years ago. He was a former middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight title holder. And then he was the first guy to go back from winning a heavyweight title. Let me rephrase it. He was the first guy that had been a former world light heavyweight titleist that became a world heavyweight titleist that went back down and captured the world light heavyweight title. He was the first guy to do it since Bob Fitzsimmons did it almost 100 years previously. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting that Roy Jones is not a Hall of Fame fighter. It's just that the accolades you hear about it is almost like they're talking about Superman, you know, and I don't remember him as being that great. He was dominating, but he was fighting the right guys. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I think so. And he just was he had a God-given talent and ability, and as an athlete. I mean, was he also the one that was a big fan of basketball? He loved basketball.
Well, Manny Pacquiao loved basketball.
He actively.
No, Roy. I think
a professional basketball player. Yeah, he was really good. He competed just on some light level. He had a passion for
Roy played. I believe Roy played in a European league for a little bit. Yeah, no, Roy is, like Dak said, Roy was an exceptional athlete, and his athleticism is what separated him from the others. That's for sure. But I don't know. It just gets pretty sickening at times to hear the announcers with the accolades. Oh, Roy, you could have beaten those guys in the same night, Roy. Roy Jones Jr. And then he talks about himself in the third. Well, Roy Jones Jr. wouldn't have been hit. It's like, well, wait a minute, aren't you Roy Jones Jr.? I mean, come on. It's like, it's just so sickening. It's a shame. We were talking about HBO.
Steve Martin.
Yeah, we were talking about HBO and they're losing momentum. They've lost it, in my opinion. They need to revamp, man. Jim Lampley's done. Jim Lampley can't call a fight anymore without looking at punch stats. Max Kellerman, they're never going to let him loose. Although I'm against the rest of you guys. I kind of like Max. I think he's knowledgeable.
I always like Max. I just feel like sometimes I think he inserts foot in mouth.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes he says things that he's they give him a little leeway and then he says the wrong thing. But Roy, no disrespect to Roy, he's got to go. He's got to go. He really does. But anyway, and we got to go. On this day, January 29th in 1999, Francisco Castillo wins a 12-round decision over Keith Mullings to win the WBC World Junior Middleweight title. It took place in Spain. On this day in 1994, Frankie Randall wins a 12-round decision over Julio Cesar Chavez to win the WBC Junior Welterweight title, and that took place in Vegas. And incidentally, we talked about this fight last week. That was Julio Cesar Chavez's first loss after 82 or 84 fights, whatever it was. So please
hear that, Floyd?
Right, you hear that? And so anybody out there that thinks going 50-0 was a big deal, not so much. On this day in 2006, Takashi Kozumoto wins a 12-round decision over In-Jin Chai to win the WBC World Featherweight title. It took place in Japan. On this day in 1996, Nana Konadu knocks out Veerapal Saparan in the second round to win the WBA Bantamweight title. It took place in Bangkok. On this day in 2002, Ketero Honosho wins a 12-round decision over Joma Gamboa to regain the vacant WBA strawweight title. It took place in Japan. On this day in 1994, Felix Tito Trinidad wins a 12-round decision over Hector Macho Camacho to retain his IBF World Welterweight title, and that took place in Las Vegas. On this day in 1977, Roberto Duran knocks out Villamar Fernandez in the 13th round to retain his WBA lightweight title, and that took place in Miami Beach, Florida, on this day in 1977. And finally, on this day, January 29th in 1984, the late, great, and a personal close friend of mine, Billy Costello, knocks out Bruce Curry in the 10th round to win the WBC World Junior Welterweight title, and that took place in Texas on this day in 1984. And the original Billy C, it was used to laugh. And I got a lot of his interviews we did on this show on tape. I have so many. I was going through so many interviews that we did with all these guys. But Billy Costello, I used to call him on the phone. Hey, Billy C, this is Billy C. Hey, Billy C, how you doing? Hey, Billy C. It was all the Billy C's. We were throwing Billy C's around. It was pretty funny, and I miss Billy Costello a lot. He was a good man. A great guy for sure. Yeah. But anyway, Sal, tomorrow, I just want to warn everybody, tomorrow we may have some technical issues thanks to Microsoft. So we're going to play that by ear. We're not going to know until tomorrow. So I'm just giving everybody a heads up in case you see me and Sal. Stuff like our lips moving, but you can't hear us talking or some crazy stuff like that. We need to form some kind of a protest against Microsoft. I mean, since when did they get to control our lives, Sal? Since when?
Since they've been plugging in the internet and doing what they can do, they've been using and abusing and controlling a lot of lives.
This is true. Sort of like Sal's neighborhood pizzeria's pizza.
Yes.
Once you eat that stuff, you become
messages being played 24/7.
You become addicted
and
to it.
just like, remember what was that series, that show that came on, black and white, not the Twilight Zone. It was the One Step Beyond. It goes, what you're about to see. We're gonna get into your mind. Or this. You remember that?
Yeah.
The black and white.
I liked my favorite was still Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. Those
Outer
were great.
Limits. You had One Step Beyond, Outer Limits, and Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I mean, you had so much sci-fi back then. It was. I tell you what, we were fortunate enough to see those broadcasts. Man, they were great. It might have been Outer Limits that said, what you're about to see. There's nothing wrong with your TV set.
Outer Limits was there's nothing wrong with your TV set. We've taken control.
This is the next 40 minutes or an hour or half hour, whatever it was.
Well, listen, boys and girls, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.